There's so much that we just don't know about this life. And if that stuff is possible, it's just like, what are we doing? Like everybody's aperture
Yeah.
is this big, like we don't really know. We see the world as this big when it's really like there's this much going on. And it seems like to me, we have these psychic powers that we have to yet to tap into. It's just, we really don't know what it means to be a human being. Like we really don't. Like we know, like I said, this much, but there's like, we might have these powers to communicate with beings of other densities. Like that's just like, what? We don't learn that in school, man. Like it's crazy.
We definitely don't. But the thing about it is, we're not like, we have to open ourselves to the possibilities. We
Hmm.
have to stop being so arrogant to think we know everything. Like the reductionist, rationalist, skeptical approach that a lot of scientists take, where if you can't just show it to me in the palm of your hand, it doesn't exist. It's like, well, guess what? They will always honor that. If that's the attitude we have towards anything, the ETs literally, they can't communicate with us because that'd be a violation of our free will, and they would depolarize themselves. They would lose polarity. And on the service to others path, it's a win-win when it's done right. So they're very eager to communicate with us, and they want to be of service. They're truly beings of pure love, and they see us as them. They see us as their own brothers who are stuck on this little planet Earth, that are just suffering so terribly and confused and lost. And they so badly want to help us out, but they also have to honor our free will, and they have to wait for us to acknowledge them and say, hey, we want contact with you. And then they'll be more than happy to help us eradicate disease on our planet, famine, every world issue you can think of. But they're waiting for us. So it's like, yeah, we got to get our thumbs out of our butts and figure out where we are in this vast universe.
Mm.
Like even the fact, I don't know about you, but whenever I hear, whether it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson or somebody on Joe Rogan's podcast, where they're like, you think we're alone in the universe? I'm just like, oh, it's so cringy. It's so embarrassing. We ask that. And even when they go, I don't think we're alone. It's like, even that's an embarrassing answer. It's like, it should be so stunningly obvious we're not alone. The
Yeah.
question is, why aren't we receiving contact? Because we're not alone. Must be because we're not at the state yet where we're ready for that. Like these entities know if they gave us any kind of technology they have, I mean, we're still going to war with each other now with this primitive ape technology we have. Like imagine if we knew how to use gravity. You don't think
Mhm.
Russia, China, the US would be going to war with each other for supreme dominance over planet Earth? You bet your bottom dollar they would. So duh, these beings aren't going to help us out and give us technology. But any person, truthfully, who reaches out to them, whether it's like Stephen Greer's CE5 meditations. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but there's some documentaries on Netflix, Unacknowledged. I think that's on Netflix. Yeah. On Prime, there's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where Stephen Greer explains how they communicate with these ETs. And these people go out to the desert. And I actually have a good friend of mine who works for Gaia here in Colorado as a video editor. And he's gone out to the desert to do these CE5 meditations, where you basically just get into a meditative state where you drop out of the thinking mind and you get into that field of consciousness where you can communicate with them, and you just send them love and send them light and say, welcome, please. I would love to communicate with you. I welcome you to this planet. And these UFOs start showing up in the sky. And it's just incredible the amount of footage that people have had from doing these events. And even in channeling, like people that learn how to channel, they find there's always an entity ready to communicate with them. It's just a matter of them finding entities who are reaching out to them first, so that they're not violating free will in doing so.
I see. So it's like if they were to, if we were to bring a gray alien on the Today Show, that would kind of screw up the matrix in a way. There would just be like this, it just wouldn't work. Like we're not ready, essentially. Is that it?
Dude, total pandemonium, world religions collapsing overnight,
Mm,
wars, you name it. Like it would destabilize our planet if they did something like that.
yeah.
There's so many unconscious people still on planet Earth that couldn't handle that kind of a recognition. I mean, they believe they're this person. There's just this one world. There's probably nobody else out there. It's all about me. Everything revolves around me. And imagine breaking out of that tiny little eggshell and realizing you're just a speck on a speck in an infinite ocean of specks. mean, that's going to cause a lot of mental panic in people, right?
Yeah.
So they are acclimating us to their presence very slowly with these unbelievable UFO sightings we're having lately. I mean, military pilots, even our own government has come out and said the UFO phenomenon's real. And in September, the Pentagon came out, sort of slyly under the table while the COVID pandemic's happening. They're like, hey, by the way, we have a UFO. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Nobody
Like,
talked about it really.
Nobody talked about it. It's like, I mean, even when you have something like the Phoenix Lights, okay, 1997, there was a craft that was described as a mile wide triangular formation that appeared over Phoenix for, I don't know, like 20 or 30 minutes, that tens of thousands of people saw. You know, every branch of government saw it. Showed up on radar. They dispatched jets, helicopters, military to go check it out. All kinds of footage. I mean, a straight up movie level UFO encounter. And then this craft, silently not making a single noise, hovering over the city, and then just disappears out of sight, reappears over Tucson or something, floats over there for a while, disappears. And then these ETs are like, hey guys, we're here, just letting you know. And the next day they're like, well, back to business as usual. Like, it didn't change anything, because it's a testament to how unconscious we still are. We don't really want to believe that we're not alone.
Wow. What do you think it's going to take? We just slowly, gradually just have to come to the realization, like each individual has to kind of know that we're not this body. Is that kind of why we're going through this process, you think, right now? It's just like it's a slow metamorphosis of deconditioning. And then from there, these beings know that we're kind of going through that process, but we're not collectively there yet. But once we are, that's when these beings that seem like, from what we're describing, they seem like guardian angels in a way. 100%. Are they? So they know that until we're at that point, they can't really come and help us, right?
Yeah. I have a hunch that if we did end up on the brink of extinction, whether that's through war or some biological disease or weapon, I think that they would step in to help us. Rather than just watching us be annihilated.
I've heard that before. I think, sorry to interrupt. I've heard that, like, I don't know if it was the Law of One, but one time that I guess there was something where one country was going to launch some nuclear
weapon,
and then the launch codes decided they malfunctioned at like a weird point. And I guess the story was that like these extraterrestrials came in and messed with the launch code, so the weapon couldn't launch or something like that. Do you know anything about that?
Oh yeah. The ETs that we see seem to be very concerned with our weapons of mass destruction. And, there's a number of reports of, it really has happened many, many times where fighter pilots on routine, patrol missions or whatever, test flights, they find these UFOs and they shoot at them. And these extraterrestrials show such a Gandhian level of pacifism towards us. They just sort of disappear out of sight, or they just leave. There's never been a single event that proves any kind of hostility from an unidentified flying object. And there's been a number of occasions that you're talking about where we have tried to launch our nuclear warheads into outer space to test them. And they've either been, all of a sudden the computer system gets like taken over and they can't figure out what's going on. And then everything gets defragged and they can't launch the rocket. And there's actually one event that happened that I think it's on the Unacknowledged documentary. They interview the military like generals who were overseeing all this. And they said they launched the rocket and a UFO appears in the sky on the right side of it, shoots a beam of light into it, disappears, reappears above it, shoots a beam of light down onto it, disappears, reappears on the left, shoots a beam of light, reappears at the bottom, shoots a beam of light up inside of it, and then just zips off into hyperspace. And the warhead just crashes down to the surface and doesn't detonate or explode, just falls back down to Earth and is neutralized. And he said his commanding officer looked at him and said, "What the hell was that?" And he looks back at him and says, "I think that was a UFO."
Wow. Yeah,
So
there's so
yeah,
much going on,
and
man.
this is declassified from the military. This isn't like, oh, some guy said this once happened. This is fully like open
Hmm.
information that the military has disclosed already. It's
Hmm.
pretty amazing.
That's what's funny to me is it's all out there. Like there is literally
It's all
so much
there.
information out there that is from official sources, and nobody's really cares about it. We're just like you said right now. It's just like, oh, it's just another UFO sighting. It's whatever.
Yeah, but you know
Mm,
what's good is that it's becoming normal now. Like you don't really hear true UFO skeptics anymore. There's still some around, like here and there, but even the vast majority of like scientists will acknowledge that the UFO phenomenon exists. It's now more of a question of like, well, what do you think they are?
mm,
And they'll say, well, they might be us from the future. They kind of use everything but aliens as an option. They'll say like
mhm.
maybe they're interdimensional bleeding from other dimensions is what we're seeing. Maybe they're AI robots from the future or whatever coming back to observe humankind before their inception, whatever, right? But nobody really says, oh, there's no UFOs.
Yeah,
So that's really good because as long as the farther along the collective consciousness can come to acknowledging them, the more they're going to keep showing us their presence more and more often, which is what's happening now. The more it becomes accepted as normal, the more free they are to continue on that vein. And even things like crop circles, right? I really think that some of these crop circles we see that literally just materialize in a matter of hours, like a farmer's out in his cornfield, comes back in the afternoon, there's this enormous sacred geometry shape impressed into his crop with perfect mathematical symmetry that we don't have the technology to do that even today. And they go, oh, must be a bunch of hoaxers. Like the mind still can't grasp anything outside of its paradigm. But
hmm,
it's really amazing, isn't it, to think how would an intelligent, benevolent, loving species make us aware of their presence? They would probably do something like planting a sacred geometric shape somewhere that would show, hey, we're intelligent. You guys can't do this, so it's not you that did it. There you go. We're out, you know.
hmm. It's like they're messing with us, you
Well,
know?
I don't think they're messing with us. I think that they're just acclimating us to their presence in ways that are undeniable. And I also think, this is just my theory. I mean, if you look at some of these crop circles, they are marvelous to look at. They're incredible. And sacred geometry is really just math. And math is the universal language of the universe. And everything can be explained in mathematics. And sacred geometry is really just really like formulas in geometric form or shape.
Hmm.
So I think that a lot of these crop circles that appear with these mesmerizing formations, they're probably like imprinting the cure for cancer, the theory of gravity, like, you know what I mean? They're probably giving us information. I think
Yeah,
that these crop circles definitely mean something, but we're just not at the level of intelligence to decipher what that meaning is yet.
they're just messages, you're saying?
I think that it's a message in and of itself, right? Like, hey, we're here and you can't deny we're here, but we don't obviously don't have bad intentions. Otherwise we could, game set match overnight if we wanted to, but we're definitely here. You can't deny we're here. So we must be peaceful, right? It's kind of their way of sending that message without, again, appearing on the front lawn of the White House and showing up on CNN or something.
Hmm.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah. So these are, I touched upon it before. They're like guardian angels, would you say?
100%. Yeah.
Do you think that like these stories that are in, in books of people seeing these apparitions and seeing these beings are of we're seeing the same beings, and essentially today when we see a UFO, it's kind of like the same on the same line?
Yeah, I think that what we have called angels for thousands of years in religious traditions are extraterrestrials. The Law of One describes that as these beings continue evolving, and the density of light continues to get more and more dense, that the body that souls inhabit are more and more just a light body. And so the vast majority of extraterrestrial encounters that get reported are always these beings of light. And that's what's described as in the Bible. The angel of the Lord showed up in front of the tomb and it shone with such a radiant light that it was blinding. That's a classic ET encounter. And so what is an ancient world going to what else are they going to do with that kind of an experience, right? They're going to have to make it into some kind of religious thing. But there is no like we always think of angels as like, oh, they're some other thing. They're not like us, you know, they're in some other dimension of God's universe and they're like his manservants or something. It's like, nope, they're really just beings like us in a future state of evolution.
They are us.
They are us, yeah.
So these beings probably don't even see themselves as separate beings. Like we say aliens, but there's really only one alien, right?
There's a passage in the Law of One that's super funny where Don is asking Ra about close encounters of the third kind or the fourth kind or whatever. And Ra says something like, we are appreciating the humorous aspect of your query, for all is the one creator. So is therefore not every encounter very, very close?
That's funny.
Like there's some good alien humor.
Alien humor. That's great.